welcome to Open Source episode 19. It's great to have you back with us, everybody, and I am very happy and delighted to have Michael Klein on our show. Say hi, Michael.
Hello.
And returning as usual, we got Rory Unsworth. Give us a kiss. Thank you. And Mark Simpson, give us a wave.
Hey, everybody.
Excellent. So, Michael, thank you for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, but also, why have you decided to join our community?
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's great. I mean, joining the community is great because we're all like-minded people with a clear focus or similar focus on what's happening in the world of insurance. What are the driving forces behind it, and how we can make a change ourselves. My background is actually as a financial analyst. I've been a financial analyst for almost 20 years. That actually got me into contact with my current company that I have, Safeside, which Rory nicely touched on some time ago. And that's how we met up as well. And basically, Safeside is a company out of a problem that I had myself. I'm based in Switzerland. I wanted to buy pure life insurance or term life insurance. Having been a financial analyst focusing on insurance companies, I thought I knew what I wanted, and it should be very easy to do this. But that wasn't the case in Switzerland. Actually, pretty much all companies wanted me to speak to a financial advisor who would do then a 360 analysis of my reason and who I am. I didn't really want to do that and realized that there's a great market opportunity also because the result is that these agents then try to upsell or to sell mixed endowment life insurance policies rather than just term life insurance policies. So Safeside in a nutshell is a one-stop shop where anyone can inform themselves, what is life insurance? Do I actually need it? The answer could be no, you don't need it if you don't have any people dependent on you financially. Or if you need it, you get an answer in terms of how much you need, and you can do it on our platform, fully digital, within 3 minutes, which is record time in Switzerland.
That's brilliant. And what I love about it is that you had a very personal problem and you took action. Now, many of us in this community, are maybe would like to become an entrepreneur one day, an aspiring entrepreneur. What differentiates you from saying, okay, this problem, damn, I've got to do something about it. I can't stand it. I'm going to take action. What made you do that action? What was the push?
So the problem I've had is some years ago, and the push was actually talking about the problem to some people, and the realization that nowadays everyone not only has a mobile phone, but actually does financial stuff on a mobile phone. We probably access our bank accounts via mobile phones, send money, but the same also in terms of insurance. And insurance, the realization was that term life insurance is probably the easiest of all insurance products. For a consumer, only two things to decide: for how long do I want to protect myself? And the second thing is, how much should be paid out if I die? And it's a really great product because it's black and white. There's no arguing whether you are dead, whether the claim has happened or not. So there's not really any confusion about whether the payout is going to happen. Also, all the exclusions that exist kind of make sense. So it really differentiates itself from other products where actually there might be a lot of explaining to be done. And so I was really surprised that this is a product that, at least in Switzerland, is difficult to actually buy yourself. You still have to go via an agent. So it was very clear now that people actually want to do stuff on the mobile phone, that it should be one of the first products that actually one can buy online.
Brilliant. And just to confirm, this is your first startup, right?
That's the first startup, yeah.
Excellent. So you heard it all here, guys. You can do it. Here's a perfect example. Rory, could you tell us what is it in the news that you found interesting this week?
With great pleasure. And you can see my background, right? I'm not going to talk about gambling. I'm going to talk about a lady luck. Serendipity, you can call it whatever you want. It's stimulated by a book on luck written by a German writer, Dr. Christian Busch. And it's called, the book is called the Serendipity Mindset. what is the little title? The Art and Science of Creating Good Luck. Okay. And he says serendipity is often the force that makes the greatest difference in our lives. And apparently 50% of major scientific breakthroughs emerge as a result of accidents or coincidences, right? The list is quite extraordinary. But relate that to innovation, to insurtech, right? Cultivate a serendipity mindset. And this is what I think the book is talking about cultivating this mindset. And I have to say, I'm not trying to do cultural stereotyping here. It had to be a German who wrote this. And I can just imagine him, you know, a very interesting phenomenon, this luck thing, you know. And as I say, it's not me doing cultural stereotyping. This is something he describes himself in the book. He actually says that he had to be German to write this, to write the rules about luck, right? So anyway, if you compare that, of course, to and I hear I'm probably excusing myself too much, but in the sense that the English, you compare that to the English, they live in a much more serendipitous culture, right? So they may not have even noticed serendipity around them, like you rarely master the theory of grammar in your own language. Anyway, cut a long story short, he says luck happens more often as there's a bit of a process to it. And he gives some really good examples. As I say, I relate this to what we're trying to do here. Look at the world and see opportunities others don't. Create a community like we've done, you know. Michael's now with us. And if something happens here, it's luck, it's great, but sort of cultivated. So yeah, just a thoughtful one from me this week.
Great, no, that's a great one. Thank you very much for that. I'll keep it in mind when I have to buy a lottery ticket also, just in case. Mark, could you tell us what is it in news you found interesting?
I can, and just beyond that, before I start on that, Rory, it's interesting. One of the things I do with coaching with teams and individuals is they so often miss opportunities because they're staring at their navels, or there's a lot of introspection on things. So one of my little games I play with people is I want you all to look out for a yellow car over the next week. See how many yellow cars that you spot, and you'll see lots of them. And that's a bit like opportunities. They were already there. You just didn't take the time to notice them. Indeed. So I fully subscribe to that. Now, my interesting point this week was from an article from a guy called Joe McKendrick, and I'll add a link to his article, who's worth following. He's an analyst and a journalist that has a good handle on tech and sentiment, so I like him about that. And he was explaining that at the moment, employees just aren't feeling the love for digital transformation yet. And it's definitely, you know, a year that we're going to think about and remember for a long time. And all, you know, the year from a business perspective where our carefully crafted strategies got tested, got confined to the bin, got rehashed. And then this thing, digital transformation, got picked up, spun around, compressed, or did it? So what we see is in a number of areas, mid-sized companies are definitely reporting they're budgeting more than, more money than ever towards digital transformation, which is great. But also what X Matters survey found was actually this crisis accelerated digital transformation, they call it, is hindering innovation. 84% of them reported their ability to innovate is actually now dampened by the fact that they're spending all their time on solving the crisis of today at the moment. And I guess you can argue that's because they weren't digitally ready before. And what we're really seeing is in the rush for these digital decisions at the moment, lots of things are being pushed through by brute force. They're bypassing a lot of process, procedures, and even consultations. And there's a good side of that in terms of, things got done a lot quicker. A lot of the models and beliefs we had got torpedoed, but there's a bit of a downside to it. And then one of the things I find interesting from a Boston consulting survey is the typical piece of, 90+% of managers, 65% of employees say that digital is really important and it's critical and they want to get on board with it, but only 50% of them believe it's going to impact their job. So it's the classic about everybody else. So I'm interested to see what will bring the love back in for digital transformation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Michael, I understand your like for this week's news and wonder is the same. So could you tell us a little bit about them? Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
Oh, no, it should be fine. Yeah, thank you. And sorry about that. So yes, it's Ping An, a company I've been following as a financial analyst already for quite a few years. I really find them fascinating, generally speaking, in terms of what they're doing strategically, also from a visionary perspective. And what I thought was interesting in this news is the results that they reported, the interim results. Overall, despite Corona, actually profits were up, I think about 6%. Overall business was slightly up as well, which I think is astounding if you compare what's happening to some of the insurance companies in the developed world, in Europe or in the US. But what's more interesting, I thought, is that they're really pushing through the focusing on quality rather than volume. You may have seen that they have reduced the number of agents that they have in China from something like 320,000 to now still an astounding 200,000. So still a huge amount, but a big drop previously. And what's interesting and close to my heart, of course, is that they have moved away and are continuing to move away from the normal endowment policy, more to the high quality, what insurance really makes up. So if the risk products on the life insurance side. And the wonder really is how amazing it is, how much money they continue to pour into digital advancement, harnessing technologies that exist already, but also developing them further to be on the frontier, what's actually possible from a technological perspective, and also apply it to the real world. And they have actually more people in R&D than some of the large insurance groups in Europe. So that's just people looking at technological advancement, how they can push through more digitalization. So it's a company I'm really fascinated by and I find very, very interesting.
And this is brilliant. I mean, do you have a sense, in terms of comparing Ping An to, let's say, Western-related insurance companies, are there any other companies that are even marginally getting to a similar level as Ping An in terms of digital transformation, digital innovation? Because you mentioned R&D is one of the highest, compared to the rest. Is that also in digital?
I mean, I guess there are a few things that one needs to say in defense of the old companies, if we consider Ping An being a new company. The first defense is, of course, China developed much, much faster. So you don't have the same number of legacy systems, the same number of things to deal with. Also important is their client groups are far more digitally savvy. In China, the use of mobile phones has a completely different penetration rate, in particular when it comes to financial services, than some of the European or US markets. And also what is allowed to do digitally is completely different in China than what a company would be allowed in Europe. But companies, I think, I follow closely in Europe that I think are very good in terms of what they're doing digitally. I really like the Scandinavian companies, but also some of the stuff that's happening in Eastern Europe, and I guess it's also goes hand in hand what the consumers actually want. I mean, we still have checks in the US, for example. People still love old cash and interaction with agents. That's the experience, for example, in Switzerland that I had myself. So I guess it goes hand in hand with the environment you have in terms of how to shape it, how to drive progress forward, and what you can do digitally. But nevertheless, what's happening in China is really astounding and sometimes really scary, actually.
No, indeed. No, thank you very much for that. Rory, and tell us, what is it in the news that made you wonder?
So as a lawyer, what made me wonder this week was a judgment of the first instance court relating to business interruption policies in the context of the COVID-19 epidemic. So a lot of you will have heard about it. So basically this first instance court in London heard a court case brought by the Financial Conduct Authority against 8 insurers. And they looked at all their different types of policies, or I think there were about a dozen or 20 or so policy wordings. And they said, would these business interruption policies cover the COVID-19 pandemic? And it was a mixed result. They said some of them would and some of them wouldn't. And of course, every one of these insurers hoped that every one of the policies would be no coverage. But anyway, I've got 2 wonders about that. My first is, will insurers appeal this? You know, the ones where it was found that there was coverage, will they appeal it and risk the reputational side? You know, it never looks good in the press if you look like you're kind of chipping away and trying to not cover stuff, and it's quite a public case, right? Let's see about that. But my second and the main one relating to digital technology is, you know, how can this case actually help insurers? So imagine if you had that handful of policies, 20 or so policies, and you could use the findings of the court and those wordings to map your portfolio overall for coverage, even if many of the wordings you have are different to the ones that were considered by the court, right? Imagine if you could press a button on the court decision and you would get a map of coverage. And the fact is, you can do this with preparation. There is a tech stack which, if you developed it and adopted it correctly, it would have allowed you to do just that. Unfortunately, none of the insurers, I promise you, have prepared that way. So they won't be able to do it. And my wonder is, will insurers prepare for such an outcome when it happens next, so that they can literally take those findings and immediately come up with a structured map? Our community member, Akbar Datu, has promised to elaborate on this very point. He's done some research on this and implemented a number of brilliant implementations in the over-the-counter derivative space. He's going to post his thoughts on this to our platform sometime next week, so watch this space.
Great. Now we look forward to reading all about it. Thank you, Rory. Mark, tell us what is in the news that made you wonder.
So my wonder this week is the announcement around the Belt and Road bank that's embracing blockchain to facilitate trade along the Belt and Road. And for those that don't know, that China's Belt and Road is sometimes referred to as the New Silk Road, and it was something announced back in 2013 by President Xi Jinping. And it's really a massive collection of development and investment initiatives that stretch from East Asia right the way through to Europe, through to Africa, and with the Chinese government investing in nearly 70 countries and international organizations. So it's a huge potential trade route. And one of the things that, you know, we often raise as a challenge with any form of technology, including DLT, is, well, what about the legacy position? And we seldom, you know, can ignore the current solutions. So imagine the freedom when you've got a relative green field of and arguably one of the biggest green fields with the Belt and Road. Anyway, this week, LGR crypto bank based in Switzerland launched a new Silk Road coin. So it's a crypto that they can use for seamless and instant trade along the Belt and Road. And they're now looking at how digital smart contracts can be used in things like trade finance, which covered before, you know, automated letters of credit. Then you can start to incorporate things like IoT. So it could trigger transactions and payments automatically when data comes in from the supply chain. You know, if something got to a particular point, if it was checked and verified, then you can start to see payment. So there's going to be a lot of automation there. Even more data, I can imagine, and a huge role in shaping not just supply chain, but everything related to it, you know, finance, insurance. So whilst the Belt and Road is going to create demand, I'm going to wonder what else it's going to catalyze as well in terms of new innovation. So it will be on a demand side, but I bet lots of new innovation is going to come out of that. So it's an exciting space.
Oh, definitely. So no, thank you very much for that, Mark, and for yours, Rory and Michael. I'm afraid we're out of time. We seem to have lost Rory, so we're going to have to do a little wave goodbye without him. Oh, now you're back. Yes. Excellent. So I want to thank you all, for participating, in this episode. And for you who is watching this show, we'd love to have you as a guest. As you can see, we haven't been naughty to Michael or anything like that. We love participants to share their insights on what they find interesting in the news. So please leave us a comment or send us a direct message. We'd love to have you. But for now, wishing you all a great end of the day or evening, and we'll catch you next week. See you guys.
Take care, everybody.